Hey guys, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And this week on the program, another spin-off company from Toyota. Of course, last week we had the Lexus ES350 on the show. Lexus is the luxury spin-off from Toyota, and the ES350 is certainly a car targeted toward a bit of an older buyer. This week we have the new 2016 Scion IM. Scion, another spin-off company from Toyota, targeted toward a much younger demographic, more affordable and a little bit funner as well. The IM is interesting because it's a little bit more of a conventional hatchback. Think of the Volkswagen Golf, the Ford Focus, the Honda Fit, all vehicles that can kind of stack up to this pretty well. It's still got a pretty cool kind of young, hip look to it, but it's going to be a bit more approachable to a bit more of an all-round buyer. I really love hatchbacks because they're efficient, they're zippy, they're fun, they've got a surprising amount of storage capacity when you put those back seats down, and they're great for getting around town. Let's see if this can fit, a car seat in the back, all that kind of stuff. We'll have all the numbers and tests for you coming right up on Family Wheels. So with that young, hip, urbanite buyer in mind, there are certain things that have to be achieved. It has to be efficient, it has to be fun to drive, it has to be easy to park, and it has to be affordable. And that's one of the things that surprised me right off the hop with the Scion, is that the base price on this car is just a little over $21,000. That's a lot of money for a base model hatchback. When you compare that to the Honda Fit, for example, you can get into a base Honda Fit for $14,500. But that's one of the things that's a little interesting about Scion. The only things that you can really change about this car are the exterior color and the transmission. You can get a 6-speed manual transmission or pay a little bit less than $1,000 more for a continuously variable transmission. So you're getting a fairly well kitted out car right off the hop. Things like a fairly good Pioneer sound system, a rear backup camera, you're getting cruise control, you're getting air conditioning, you're getting dual zone climate control, all that kind of stuff as standard right off the get-go. So that's one of the things that makes this car stand out from its competitors and their base models. But here's something interesting. You can only get the 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine in this car. It's the same driveline that you would find in the Toyota Corolla, and I thought that car would give you pretty good fuel economy, but it's actually not that great. I've seen about 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers in a mix of highway and city driving over the last couple hundred kilometers. The Honda Fit, again to compare it to that car, sees about 5.5 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers. Scion is saying right from the source that you should expect to get between 6.3 and 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's not that good for a hatchback of this size, and that was a bit of a surprise to me. Now, fuel efficiency aside, this car is actually a fair bit of fun to drive when you're getting around town. I imagine the 6-speed manual transmission would be a riot, but I've got the continuously variable transmission here in our tester, and it's not bad either. I find these often are a little bit clunky and not that fun to drive. This isn't bad, particularly when you pop it into sport mode. And this is an interesting bit of technology from Scion. You know how on your smartphone you can flip your screen and the gyroscopes inside of the phone actually sense what your phone is doing? Well, this car has some similar kind of technology in it. Scion calls it yaw rate sensors, and what that does is that when you pop it into sport mode, it actually senses where you are in a corner and will rev the engine appropriately, put you into the proper range in the transmission, and it does make it really responsive and fun to get around in. But speaking of performance, one thing I do wish this car had is a set of paddle shifters on the steering wheel. That way you could shift down into corners, and I think it's something that would really appeal to the younger demographic that Scion's going after. When you get this car up to highway speed, you're going to notice that it's a fairly noisy ride. Just in general, the engine is noisy, and I was even getting wind noise through the door seals here. I experienced the same problems with the Honda Fit, and I wish that this car would just have a little bit more refinement on that front. Another thing that's a little bit of a disappointment for me in this car are the seats. You can only get them in cloth, no leather available to you at all, and I find that they're a little bit too soft. The bucket itself, I feel like I'm sinking into it too much, and there's no lumbar support at all. It doesn't have one of those bars that you can push forward or backward to adjust to your particular back, and I just feel like I'm kind of sinking into this thing. One thing that's nice about these seats is that they're fairly nicely bolstered. It means that when you're going around those corners and having a bit of fun in this car, that you feel like you're nicely held into place. But in terms of general comfort, a long drive in these I think would get pretty tiresome. So kind of an interesting mix of fit and finish here. You've got a high-end sound system, you've got some nice soft touch surfaces in here, but at the same time some hard plastics that make this car feel a little bit cheaper than it should be at $21,000. You compare this to the Fit, and the Fit has some cheap plastics as well, but you look at the Volkswagen Golf, and certainly its interior, in my mind, is a little bit more refined, so you kind of have to balance it out and what's important to you. In terms of how this drives, pretty fun little car though. So as the days get shorter, our light is getting limited too, so I'm going to try and go through our standardized tests here before we lose the light for the day. First up, of course, our trunk test, and these hatchbacks always seem to be able to just fit our standard amount of gear, and that's what we're looking at today. A backpack, a diaper bag, a couple bags of groceries, a soccer ball, and a fold-up stroller. It all fits, but you're not getting anything else back there, that's for sure. Of course, with this hatchback, you can always fold the seats flat. That gives you a lot more storage capacity as well. But one thing I do like about the Fit that's not in this car is its magic seat configuration, where you can also flip those back seats up upon themselves and kind of create a little bit of a different storage envelope for you as well, for carrying all kinds of things in the back seat. I've put our rear-facing child seat in place there, and it's not done us many favors for legroom up front here, I'm afraid. About 6 inches of legroom. I'm not even going to try and sneak up there because that would be pretty much impossible for me, and really not safe in terms of how airbags would deploy either. So a rear-facing child seat in this car would basically render the front seat useless for you. Now, the yogurt test, because you cannot get this car with leather seats. Let's see how these cloth seats stack up with our spill test. I'm going to grab some here, rub it into the seats, and see if we can rub it off pretty easily. Yeah, it's leaving a little bit of a mark. That's going to take some work to get out. That's one of the challenges of cloth seats for family living. It means that, you know, kid messes are going to be definitely a little bit more challenging for you. Another thing that was a little bit of a disappointment for me in this car because of our Canadian winters is the fact that you can't get heated seats regardless of the trim level that you get. So an interesting new offering from Scion for 2016 here in this new IM. We'll see if the company can claw in some slightly older buyers with this safer design that they've come out with for the IM. I was a little surprised by the fuel efficiency. That's definitely not as good as I expected, not as good as some of its competitors are. And of course, for family life, you're going to find the back seat in this gets pretty tight pretty quickly. Could make a nice secondary vehicle though, you know, just for getting around town, dropping kids off at school, that sort of thing. But certainly hockey bags, dogs, and trips out into the mountains or to the cabin for the weekend would get really tight in this car really quickly. Next week on the program, another Toyota product, and one that has a lot of people excited. It's the new 2016 Toyota Tacoma. Their pickup truck hasn't seen a redesign for years, and this is their new take on what has become the king of the smaller pickup truck market, the Tacoma. Fantastic little truck. We'll see what the 2016 redesign has done. Until then, make sure to check us out on Twitter at Family Wheels. You can find us on the website familywheels.ca. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel as well. You can do that below right now. So have a great week, and we'll see you in about 7 days in that Tacoma.